Fusion is a powerful idea. It's the process of joining multiple things to form a single entity. You can fuse ideas, objects, and spaces. You can fuse foods to incorporate elements of diverse cuisines. But what's really extraordinary about the process of fusion is that it creates a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts. And that is precisely what our development aims to achieve. Kansas City is a culturally rich and diverse city with a vibrant downtown core, made up of various neighborhoods and districts. Our site aims to connect these areas, both inside and outside of the loop. We're thrilled to have the opportunity to walk you through our affordable mixed-use development we're calling Fusion. We believe it creates a meaningful opportunity to contribute to Kansas City by promoting equity, catalyzing the local food industry, and creating strong social infrastructure. Good afternoon, esteemed jury. My name is Leora, and myself, Francis, Rotian, Chenyi, and Yanlin make up the team behind Fusion. We're lucky to be supported by a team of exceptional advisors, including Stephen Weber, Victor Perez Amato, Raymond Lee, and Christina Giannone. Our site, Fusion, is a welcoming and affordable mixed-use development, where everyone who wishes to call it home can. It's designed around two key pillars, connectivity and resilience, and embodies inclusive and sustainable growth within Kansas City. Our site is developed in a public-private partnership with the Kansas City government and creates public benefit through social infrastructure and public realm enhancements that expand far beyond the bounds of our site. Fusion will be built in 3 phases over 6 years, utilizing a variety of funding sources. Overall, our site is financially feasible, benefiting both community and equity investors who will achieve a strong return by investing in Fusion. As you can see on our site plan, Fusion focuses on maintaining block structure and pedestrian interaction at street level, which is characteristic of KC's downtown core. The diverse uses across the site are connected through a pedestrian and cycling promenade along Home Street, which will be acquired and converted into a car-free zone. The promenade creates an intimate walkable experience, which is amplified by the network of green paths that exist within each block. The blocks on the south side of the site are in close proximity to the East Village Transit Center and include higher density transit-oriented development. These blocks feature mixed-use, mixed-income buildings with retail at grade and create an engaging entrance to the site. The combination of affordable housing and strong transit accessibility connects residents to employment opportunities across the city. As we move up towards 11th Street, the pedestrian promenade connects into larger public spaces to meet the express needs of downtown residents for flexible recreational green space. It also emphasizes our central iconic building, a visually stunning and thoughtfully designed community center, which is reminiscent of a stadium, but is built to serve the community. As we continue north through the site, we reach the Urban Agriculture Hub, which aims to catalyze Kansas City's local food network, creating employment opportunities and local food supply. The outdoor space that lines the area creates unique placemaking opportunities with an outdoor amphitheater and rain gardens that connect into the site's extensive stormwater management system. Overall, Fusion aims to create an affordable, livable, and sustainable neighborhood downtown, while simultaneously drawing in locals from all over Kansas City. Looking at the broader context of KC, our site is well positioned due to its central location in the downtown core. As you can see in the images on the left, it is well serviced by transit and well connected to KC's proposed active transportation network. In the map on the right, you can see that Fusion is also situated in a strong network of community gardens that exist to provide fresh food to many nearby food deserts. Our site looks to plug into this existing community network and provide capacity to the urban agriculture system that is already serving these surrounding neighborhoods.
So taking into account the surrounding context, we look to design a site that embodied our 2 key pillars, connectivity and resilience. As the foundation of the site, we look to enable environmental resilience using an extensive stormwater management system based on the site's natural topography and infused sustainable practices and circular systems throughout. This then framed how to connect the site internally through our human scale pedestrian spine that runs north-south through the site. To enhance social connectivity, We positioned our site's key social infrastructure, specifically our community center and urban agriculture hub, as a gateway from Paseo West. To ensure strong external connectivity, we situated the most dense residential development with retail at grade right next to the new transit station and placed a lot of emphasis on enhancing the mobility corridors along 11th and 12th Street. Early on, it was critical for us to define clear objectives for our site, rooted in the aspirations of Kansas City and the needs of locals. So in doing this, we conducted an initial needs analysis. However, each phase of our development includes a participatory consultation process to uncover additional needs and improve the cohesiveness of our site with the surrounding communities. The current vision for the site is grounded in a number of specific community, connectivity, economic, and environmental objectives, which are achieved through our site's thoughtful and intricate site design. This process enabled us to define the essence of Fusion to guide our master plan strategy. So what is the identity of Fusion? It's the connective tissue between the East Village and Kansas City. It's an affordable, inclusive community. It's a sustainable neighborhood. It's a catalyst for urban agriculture rooted in community. And it's a year-round destination for locals and visitors alike. Centrally located and well linked to transit, Fusion seamlessly connects into surrounding districts. The site links to the financial and government district, drawing employees for a midday coffee or lunch break. It ties into the power and light entertainment district, attracting crowds for a pregame dinner or a postgame drink after a nail-biting NCAA game at the T-Mobile Center. It brings in residents of Paseo West looking for daycare and great youth programming. And most importantly, Fusion enables connectivity for those who live on site, providing direct access to transit, necessity retail, and employment opportunities. As you can see in the images on the right, the design enhances connections to neighboring communities along key transit corridors of 11th and 12th Street using dedicated bus lanes, protected bike lanes, lit up locally decorated underpasses, and enhanced streetscapes that expand far beyond the bounds of the site. So Fusion at its core is an affordable and inclusive community where everyone is welcome. And this is achieved through our site's large supply of affordable housing. 30% of our rental units are targeted to the low-income population as defined by Kansas City housing policy at 50% of area median income. Additionally, we have 40 senior-focused units to meet the needs of the aging population. 12% of units will also be available for home ownership to meet the significant demand and help achieve citywide affordability, especially for first-time homebuyers. To ensure equity across the site, all rental buildings are made up of both market and affordable units and provide equal access to amenities and transit. So this is shown on the diagram on the left, which features our site's transit-oriented building typology, where affordable and market units are spread across each floor. Residents can access groceries and pharmacy at the ground level, and all have access to the green roofs, providing a more private green space needed for living downtown. Another key element in making the site inclusive is the community center, which is pictured on the right. It will feature intergenerational programming for seniors and youth in the rooftop gardens, the daycare center, and the library. It will also include a multi-sport facility, including a pool and a gymnasium that can easily adapt to accommodate a range of activities needed for diverse demographics. The building will also feature a large open atrium that can be used for local markets or rented to host community or corporate events.
As we alluded to earlier, Fusion is a sustainable lit neighborhood that aims to reduce greenhouse gases and support Kansas City's natural biodiversity. The green landscape area throughout the site creates functional habitats using native vegetation and a significant tree canopy. The site also features an intricate stormwater management system, which uses the site's topography and green infrastructure to naturally absorb runoff and mitigate water pollution. The site's network of paths are built in using permeable pavement, and attractive green roof gardens are scattered throughout. These features, in addition to bioswales and rain gardens, allow for the filtration of stormwater at the source, which connects into Fusion's circular strategy. This circular strategy includes circular irrigation, using filtered stormwater in the vertical gardens to circular waste system, using organic waste from the food returning on site to fertilize communities' gardens. The site also plugs into Kansas City's district energy system, which uses renewables and thermal energy to more efficiently generate electricity. Beyond the functional benefits, our sustainable site design and stormwater management system play a big role in creating a warm and inviting space that draws people in. As the city of fountains, Kansas City has artistically used water fountains for hundreds of years to enhance its placemaking, and this site is no different. Using water play areas and rain gardens, Fusion creates beautiful interactive experiences with water throughout the site, as shown in this rendering of water play area. Considering the rich agricultural history of Kansas City, the strong community food networks that already exist, and the vertical farming being the fastest growing sector in US agriculture, KC is well positioned to become a leader in urban agriculture. This site proposes an agriculture hub that will do just that. This hub includes numerous aspects of food life cycle, including research, farming, small-scale distribution, and local business incubation, as outlined in the image on the right. The community garden space will support existing food distribution in adjacent communities like Paseo West, reaching areas with low access to fresh and affordable food options. The food incubator will include shared kitchen space for low-cost rental, allowing local food entrepreneurs to build up their own businesses and sell their products at the nearby food hall. The vertical gardens will support both affordable and market-rate food distribution, allowing for sustainable employment and job training opportunities. These buildings are also features a public exhibition space to partner with Latin American and African American groups in KC to share narratives related to their contributions to food culture here. The research labs will feature food-focused exploration in vertical farming, hydroponics, food preservation, food security, and distribution. Having these two components together will bridge the gap between community food systems and food innovation to ensure that it is not interrupting the network that already exists.
Overall, the design of the space features higher density buildings lining the edges that design inward to a low density promenade. This enhances the pedestrian experience and connects the development with the street-level character of KC. Throughout the site, there are specific design interventions to enhance the programming of the space, particularly along the span as you enter the south of the site, whether on foot, bicycle, or by public transit. There are opportunities to enjoy local food retailers in an open or canopied promenade. The span then expands into larger, more open, flexible recreational spaces, including a barbecue area, water play area, and outdoor performance stage. Towards the northern end of the span, amphitheater design seating allows people to sit and eat from the food hall while enjoying the unique vertical garden structures. As displayed in our seasonal programming timeline, the site will host outdoor events year-round. In the summer, the seating that faces the parking structure becomes an outdoor cinema and a canvas for art installations to brighten up the space at night. In the colder weather, the rain gardens are converted into an outdoor skating rink, creating a winter attraction. This rendering depicts a winter evening within Fusion to show how the space is experienced on colder winter nights. Residents and visitors have the ability to experience a winter patio season, extending the use and enjoyment of this well-programmed outdoor space. The well-lit canopied design allows for the enjoyment of KC's downtown culture and energy at street level all year round.
So looking at the site holistically, Fusion truly embodies the definition of a mixed-use, mixed-income site. Almost half of our gross floor area is dedicated to residential housing, which is captured in yellow, of which 30% is affordable. Shared office, research, and incubation space is captured in blue, scattered throughout the site, with a higher concentration across our urban agriculture hub. As you can see in the bottom left image, the ground floors are activated by retail use, especially down the promenade and across major transit corridors. The retail is intentionally varied, with local eateries and shops along the spine, while the courtyards and corridors include more necessity retail, for example, a Trader Joe's, a CVS, and a city gym. To decrease parking while still ensuring accessibility to the site, shared parking structures were strategically placed to ensure a 5-minute walk to your destination. Most parking structures are shared between residential and retail, leveraging the mixed-use aspects of the buildings. And in terms of the building typologies, mixed-use buildings were framed to create smaller courtyards to provide more secluded outdoor spaces for residents. The red brick human-scale retail was also designed to create an environment characteristic of downtown Kansas City. We made an explicit choice to create more unique building typologies for the urban agriculture and community center to mirror their catalytic intentions. We also recognize that strong relationships with partners are central to the success of Fusion. Taking into account the existing rental building at 10th and Home Street, we proposed to enter into an agreement with Missouri Housing Development Commission to build a shared parking structure where the surface parking lot is currently located. This is to serve the existing rental building and also future Fusion buildings. This does not conflict with or break the land use restriction agreement. We are also proposing partnerships with community development corporations to manage the operation and maintenance of our affordable units. It's also really important that we plug into existing networks and build on the local knowledge base. So we plan to partner with community agriculture organizations using the first phase to create focus groups and work directly with them, some including harvesters and Kansas City community gardens. Public art is also key to creating a sense of place. So we'll look to partner with local artists, for example, through Arts KC, to support underpass enhancements and varied art on site. And throughout all phases, we intend to proactively engage with neighborhood associations, particularly Kansas City Downtown Neighborhood Association, Paseo West, Independence, Pendleton Heights, and Chouteau Courts.
Fusion will be developed in a mutually beneficial public-private partnership with the Kansas City government. As discussed earlier, in exchange for the public-owned land, Fusion will provide numerous benefits in the public interest beyond the bounds of the site. Our acquisition costs include purchase of Home Street and the senior center at Holmes and Ninth Street. The project will provide 1,080 housing units in total. When calculating the housing units, we took into consideration the recent development pipeline in the downtown area of over 2,400 units and 6% annual downtown population growth. Based on new supply and project demand, the project will be successful in securing renters and owners and will not lead to housing oversupply. Overall, approximately 2,000 employment opportunities will be created through office, retail, and community infrastructure. Our pro forma confirms the financial feasibility of the site, which will provide a strong return over its defined 3 phases, achieving an overall unlevered IRR of 10.3%, a levered IRR of 22.9%. When underwriting costs, we added a construction cost premium of 20% to reflect the current state significant increase in material costs and labor shortage. We were intentional in ensuring that each phase of our development creates a strong sense of place. Phase 1, over a 2-year period, utilizes a variety of funding sources and leverages LIHTC to first develop the transient development closest to East Village Transit Center. We will have a 75-25 equity partnership with institutional investors like pension fund, Kansas City Public School Retirement System, as this project can fulfill their return and ESG targets. As the Opportunity Zone deadline of 2026 is approaching, we will only utilize Opportunity Zone Fund in Phase 1. Significant upfront investments are made in Phase 1 in the community center, the pedestrian promenade, and streetscape improvements to have a catalytic effect for the site, enhance connectivity with the rest of the city, and attracting renters and Kansas City residents immediately to the space, ultimately increasing return for future phases. Compared with the original proposal, We lowered the residential density in phase 1 based on the current multifamily unit absorption rate and robust downtown apartment construction activities. We also adjusted the phases to ensure they are more evenly spread out. Phase 2 and 3 will utilize additional LIHTC funding and new markets tax credit equity to support additional affordable units, along with TIF financing and a senior construction loan. The community agriculture space will be financed through an IRB, which offers low-interest, long-term financing options, allowing the project to forge meaningful community partnerships and provide the lower rental rates for the kitchen incubation space. Additionally, EPA stormwater grants will contribute to funding the site's extensive stormwater system.
Right now, in a global pandemic, we've really been pushed to recognize the importance of space, our private space at home, and the value of our shared open public spaces. It's brought to light the importance of livability and access to critical amenities in the outdoors. Our site aims to take these learnings and create a truly holistic and connected community, where the residential units are comfortable, green space is plentiful, and transit and key amenities are just around the corner. But what's most important about Fusion is its focus on community. It's a development built for locals alongside locals. It looks to take the best parts of Kansas City, the character, the culture, the existing skill sets and networks, and build upon them. A cook from Paseo West now finally has that protected bike lane she needs to feel safe to get to the kitchen incubator, where she can now access resources to test out a new barbecue taco concept. She sells these tacos at the local food hall to a municipal government employee who stops in at the end of a workday for dinner before picking up his daughter who plays basketball at the community center. On his way over, he bumps into an old friend who lives in the complex, who was just on her way to a free outdoor concert at the amphitheater. She just secured an affordable unit within Fusion, which significantly cuts down her commute to her retail job downtown. Being able to access transit, groceries, a pharmacy, restaurants, and a gym within a 10-minute radius has significantly enhanced her quality of life within KC. There is a place for everyone in Fusion, and that's what makes it special. It seamlessly fuses together the East Village and the rest of Kansas City, creating an economic catalyst, an attractive destination, and a warm, welcoming place to call home. Thank you so much for your time. We'd now like to open the floor to any questions you may have.
Great presentation, great graphics. My question is around the length of your promenade and the visibility, knowing that retail, especially more recently, has struggled. Open air places have been more successful, and so I applaud the addition of that. But the length of that retail, the length of the promenade and the need for visibility for those retailers. Can you address that, please?
Sure, I'll help facilitate the answers for my team and guide the questions, but I can start with this one. So I think one of the reasons why we wanted to have it the entire length of 12th Street to 8th Street, because we also have the research lab in the top right parcel, we also wanted to have demand directly there. And so we have retailing directly across the street that increases the demand in that space, which is a bit further from the transit-oriented area to the south. And with Independence Avenue, I think being a transit corridor, and with future plans for the riverfront and the streetcar extension, we thought extending it all the way to the end of 8th Street also provides for that kind of future connection with the development that will be happening in the north as well. And if anyone from the team would like to address that, maybe Lynn on the retailing side, but yeah, feel free to jump in, anyone else from the team.
I would like to echo, it's really impressive graphics and presentation. Thank you. I would like you to expand on the catalytic effect that you envision for the research lab, the urban agriculture. Can you give us a little more expanded view of the spaces, the square footage? Did you look at job creation? How do you, it's very strongly a neighborhood, but help us understand how you envision what kind of people, why people are attracted from outside and where they participate.
Yeah, Yeah, I can, thank you for the question. I can answer this one as well. With regards to the catalytic effect, one from the community perspective, we just noticed the scale of urban farming that's already happening in adjacent neighborhoods. So that was definitely something that we wanted to tap into. And there's already some successful examples in Kansas City. For example, I think it's Nile Valley Aquaponics. They're directly, I think, at the periphery of the greater downtown area. And they've had a lot of success with building kind of greater community programs outside of urban farming. So we wanted to tap into this very kind of creative and entrepreneurial spirit that exists in urban farming. And then with vertical farming, we saw that across the US, it's a very fast-growing industry. So we wanted to pair both the aspect of community gardening with vertical gardening and increasing investments happening into vertical gardening, all in kind of this one space. And we think that combining these two aspects together will really have a catalytic effect, and especially in the downtown core and the size of this development, there's a lot of agriculture and mixed use developments happening as well. So I think being able to get in early on this in terms of Kansas City will be catalytic. Does that answer your question, or would you like to hear a bit more detail?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, this is Susan. Great presentation, very impressive. Could you comment on the sort of the phasing of the different components of the project, most specifically the for sale housing, and how you thought about that, since it's a relatively small part of the project?
Sure, I can direct this question to both Leora and Lynn.
So we think to incorporate some of the for sale units, because we know that Kansas City is in shortage of the for sale units. That's why we incorporate some small portion of that in the phase 2 and 3.
Sure, and I can just speak a little bit to our broader phasing strategy here, because there was a very intentional kind of creation of place at each phase. So phase 1 was really about creating residential density near that new transit station, while making sure that we provided recreational and social services through the community center. And it was really about creating that first phase of the pedestrian promenade and creating just like a very warm and welcoming space. And then the second phase was really about laying that foundation for urban agriculture. Starting with the earliest point of the supply chain, which was the community and vertical gardens, and allowing for connections with community organizations. And then by the time we kind of get to phase 3, we felt that we developed a very strong identity and sense of place for the site. So it was really just about expanding that urban agriculture presence to include research and lab space, and then adding some residential buildings, as we feel that there will be significant demand for the site at this point in time.
Well done. I'd like to understand a little bit more about, first of all, start with, you've done a nice job of rebuilding the housing ladder, right? You've hit all segments of the population. I appreciate how there's an element of ownership in there, as well as rental and the affordability. Your affordability numbers are really high, right? To get down to a 50% AMI, that's a challenge. Can you explain maybe some of the financing tools that you're using to do that, relative to the proportion that we see anyway in our area?
Yeah, we
So,
can pass. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lynn.
So for the affordable housing, we utilize several public subsidies. The most significant one is the LIHTC. We're going to use 9% of the LIHTC to support the rental units for our site. And also we use a TIF and the Opportunity Zone Fund, and also the new market tax credit. So we think that using those financing tools can really help to support the construction of the affordable units.
And just to add to that very quickly, the reason why we also kind of went above the 20% minimum is because of the transit-oriented nature of development. We really wanted to connect both affordable housing with transit access. So that's why we decided to kind of use all these different types of financing to achieve that 30%.
Yeah, the 30% is one thing. It's the 50% AMI that was a little bit more of a surprise to me, which is, again, commendable if you can prove the returns.
Thank you.
While you're on the transit connection on that last question, I'd like to hear a deeper dive on how transportation and parking strategies are related to your broader themes, overarching broader themes of connectivity and resilience.
So I can speak first to the parking strategy, and maybe Leora, I'll pass it on to you for more the active transit portion. So for the parking strategy, we wanted to decrease the amount of parking because of the transit oriented nature, but we recognize that there still needs to be car access. And so we wanted to place it throughout all the sites, so not just concentrated in one parcel or one area, so that there is a 5-minute radius to access the spine. And to combine the different demands at the different times of day, we decided to build structured parking lots, so it's a bit higher density rather than surface parking. And it will be, yes, as I mentioned before, the combined demand, which reduces the amount of space required for the construction of these lots. And we also thought that we can do a lot more greening to the parking structure face to create more pedestrianized activity right at street level. And also incorporate it into our stormwater management system. And I'll pass it on to Leora for the active transit portion.
Thanks, Francis. So yeah, I think there was 3 kind of aspects at connectivity that we looked pretty deeply into, and it was around transit, cycling, and pedestrian, as Francis kind of spoke to the auto side of things. So for transit, the site's directly adjacent from the East Village Transit Center. And so we were really intentional in kind of creating an unofficial entrance to the site. Right there where it's connected into the pedestrian promenade, and it's very well serviced by transit. We did an analysis of this. You have buses from all over the city coming in and landing at that East Village Transit Center. And our site's also a 10-minute walk from the streetcar line along Main Street. So that's been approved for expansion. So we feel like there's a lot of movement in towards our site. From a cycling perspective, the current bike lanes that are not really that protected, they're mostly signed, but the Greater Downtown Area Plan for Kansas City has proposed a really strong cycling network, which directly plugs into our site, as we have kind of Home Street, which is a major cycling corridor. That's kind of our pedestrian spine. So it runs through the entire site. And then from a pedestrian connectivity perspective, the sites, we've tried to make it very walkable, through our human scale pedestrian spine. And we maintain the block structure to ensure, it's walkable, and we keep the activity at street level. And then we created that path, the network of green pathways that stem from the pedestrian spine as well.
You touched quite a bit on your sustainable approaches, which I want to commend you all on. You've done a fantastic job, and I also want to note that it's definitely apparent that you work very well as a team. You work very good together. It shows in your delivery as well as the Q&A here. But my question is, how will you measure your high-performing landscape in regards to long-term success?
Thank you for your questions and also the comments. Tan, I think I'll pass this one to you if you can comment on the long-term aspect of the environmental strategy that we have.
Yes. So if we go back to the very beginning of how we're considering the skeleton of our stormwater management system. So we're considering to build up our holistic landscapes system based on the function perspective, like we want to solve the stormwater management through our landscape. So the landscape not only serve for the programming itself, but also for the environmental sustainability in the function perspective. So I think for the long term, it will serve the site for a very long time, rather than just for the people, but also for the space, for the environment itself.
And if I can just add one minor point to that, one thing that we explored was LEED certification, specifically LEED neighborhood. And one thing that was made clear as we researched this process is that there's not only kind of a design and implementation perspective to LEED, but there's also the ongoing operation and maintenance to make sure that all the investments that you're making are actually seen through in the long run. And so I think that will actually be a helpful tool. Obviously, we want to make sure that the sustainable practices that we're implementing are not just for now. This is for the foreseeable future. But I think LEED will kind of force that ongoing, maintenance and operation to ensure that everything is is working, and we really are achieving those sustainability targets that we set out initially.
Great, thank you so much. That definitely answers my question. I always would consider to also include sustainable sites in your conversation, because LEED has a larger focus on the building systems, and the sustainable sites really touches on the elements related to the environment. But well done.
I want to echo my fellow jury members' thoughts. Really well presented and really well put together slide deck here. I do think your ideas are shining through. One question. Well, let's focus on the vertical spine, the homes. You've kind of made the investment to kind of acquire and really invest in that and create, attract and pull people to it and have energy along it. But then you have a competing north-south spine, which is a mid-block through the west blocks. Can you share your thoughts on, do you feel you're kind of dissipating a little bit of the energy with two north-south spines?
Thank you for your question. I can start answering that, and potentially Tan, if you could answer the end of it as well. So you're referring to the two southern blocks where we have both spines within the same area?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we wanted to offer one that had a canopied space for different weather conditions so that people can sit under it, whether it's raining, if they want more shade, because the spine does get a lot of sun coverage. So we kind of wanted to offer two different types of pedestrianized experiences. And Tan, if you would like further to add to how these two spines kind of interact with each other.
Yes, so as you can see, this portion is more close to the municipal government space. And the idea is this space is more like a gathering space that people can actually have more space to sitting down, to enjoy their talk, to have some communication or some conversation after their daily life. And this one, the main pedestrian spine is actually more works like skeleton for the whole system. So you can see the different kind of courtyard with different programming are connected by this spine. And ideally, all the people were introduced in the spine to have a larger scale outdoor programming events, like the outdoor cinema and the amphitheater to hold some big events. And if they want to look into more specific programming, like we want to have a talk, sitting down, have a coffee, you can find a space that's more private and more about gathering events.
This was a beautiful presentation. And you continued to enhance it in this final presentation. I also thought your statement at the end was very compelling about a place for all. Have you considered in this a place and a design for the unhoused? In Kansas City, it's a growing issue. It's a very forefront issue, I would say, in this area. So have you considered that in the design of your public space and in the concept in general?
Thank you for your question. So when we were considering the affordable housing, I guess we went to target the 50% area median income. So we don't directly have a space necessarily for housing specifically for the unhoused. I think we try to concentrate potentially on the food access point and the community garden. But in terms of the open space, we wanted it to be a space that's welcoming and inviting. And so something where anyone feels comfortable being in. So I think that's kind of what we tried to concentrate on in the different types of programming, its public aspect, and just the way it's designed north-south. But we didn't specifically have housing for the unhoused, but that's definitely, I think, a consideration as the site gets built. That we could potentially include in the northern ends of the site once we build up the first phase and have a more research into that area to provide the necessary services for that types of housing. I think it's definitely a possibility.
And just to echo Francis there, I just don't want this to come across as this was something that we didn't think about, because it absolutely was. It was just we didn't want to kind of create all of a sudden, put this housing, there's housing on all different types of the spectrum, and we didn't want to just put, housing on the lowest end of the spectrum without the necessary like associated services to make it feel like it was really going to be successful and meaningful housing. And so we tried, I guess, aside from, trying to hit every single type of housing, we were specific in zeroing in on, we want to target, the 50% mark, and really just focused our time and attention. They're obviously recognizing that it's a significant concern, but we didn't just want to say that we'd do it without believing that it would work.
Thank you. I do think that's your next opportunity, and specifically looking even at public space and the design for coexistence in public space. Thank you.
How do you see the low-income housing aligning with job opportunities that you're going to be creating on the site?
We wanted to provide a range of employment opportunities, so not only in kind of the research hub that you have, the more science biotech at the north end of the site, but we wanted to provide across all range, so retail, community gardening, job training opportunities for the vertical gardens. So that's why we wanted to create a hybrid model, so it's not just food being grown just for affordable distribution, but also for market sale, so that you can have sustainable employment opportunities and sustainable job training opportunities within that area of the site. We also have job opportunities within the community center and the programming. So we really try to kind of diversify the employment that would be available. Sorry, I live very close to a fire station. Let it pass. But yeah, so we tried to diversify the types of employment so that it's not just catered towards a scientific research lab, but it really covers a very diverse set of employment. But if Lynn or Leora, feel free to add to that as well.
The only small thing I'd add to that is just the transit connectivity. I think Francis did a really good job at speaking to the employment opportunities within the site, but we were very explicit in making sure that all the affordable housing is mixed within, all our rental units are mixed, market and affordable. And so all the dense transit oriented sites all have strong access to transit, which connects to many job opportunities outside of our site.
A question on the overall development and looking at it long term, and make sure, as you mentioned, what's the longevity? How do you care for it? How do you keep all that green infrastructure and the performance landscapes up to par, cleaned, whatever, a storm goes through, how do we filter it, all that good stuff. Could you explain maybe, and I may have missed this, do you have like a zoning or CID or some type of overlay district that allows you to generate that fund or percentage of that will help support this?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So right now we didn't use the CID, but we do use the TIF funding to support using the tax revenues to help support our site. And yeah, so and then we do have the grants from the EPA and also choice neighborhood grants to help supporting the community gardens and placemaking public landscape.
Let me offer a follow-up question to that, to Lauren's. If I'm a developer and an equity owner of one of these structures, after the TIF is gone its course, and in Missouri that would be in 25 years maximum, then who will generate funds to maintain the stormwater and these significant non-street public spaces?
I think I do believe that in this area we can continuously generate the revenue from the retail office, right? So those kind of revenues will help support the maintenance of this area.
And one thing I'll add here is that the development of this site is positioned as a public-private partnership, and there are many investments that were undertaken that were, beyond just for the benefit of the site. It was, beyond the bounds, from the streetscape enhancements to the community center and urban agriculture hub. There was a lot of thought that went into that. And so if we see this as kind of a continuous partnership where you're looking to obviously create revenue generating opportunities on site, but also looking for, additional like equity, for example, from equity investors and partners. I know that Lynn mentioned there's, we're hoping to attract pension funds into this. And so I see it not being a site that's only dependent on the revenue generated on site. I don't know, Lynn, if there's anything to add to that, but I just wanted to broaden that answer a bit.
We're actually at time, so thank you very much.
Thanks very much for your questions and comments. Thank you.
You did a great job. The community center is awesome.